Carroll County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. I think we jump right down to, Robbie, if you do the pledge and invocation, please.
It's all right. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be together in this building today, and just ask that you watch over us, bless us, and keep us safe. Ask that you keep us mindful of our duties. Let this meeting be conducted in peace and harmony, and just, Lord, we just ask that you specifically watch over those that are sick and shut in and are struggling with things in their life, Lord. And ask you to be with us as we travel home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everybody for being here. We'll just move right along. It's going to be a long night, I think. Citizens' time. Do we have anybody signed up for citizens' time? Kayleen Hunter.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kaylin Hunter, and I am the Program Director of Go Virginia Region 1. And I know that Mr. Slell Dalton here, he's going to discuss the Livestock Educational Center that you all have funding for through Go Virginia. And it's in the amount of $267,200. We have met, and Mr. Slell Dalton and I, and also the Mount Rogers Planning District Commission staff there, to discuss the next steps of this project. So with that, and I don't know what Mr. Dalton's report out entails, but I just wanted to let you all know what we've been discussing with the Mount Rogers Planning District Commission. We would really like to see this project launch. I think it would be great for the county, and also it's cross collaboration with Grayson County as well. So with that, the county is providing the local match with the piece of property, and Mount Rogers Planning District Commission has agreed to be the sub-grantee of this project, if you all see that that's the route you want to take. And the only thing that I think that we will probably need is an MOU between the Carroll County IDA and the Mount Rogers Planning District Commission for the piece of property. And then we will work together to figure out who's going to be managing this facility. I think in the beginning it was the extension was the plan, but I don't know what next steps are. With that, the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, their next state board meeting is on December 9th for Go Virginia. And they would like to present this to the state board as a signed and executed contract. So that would be by December 1st. And I know that's coming right up around the corner. I was informed today by DHCD that we will need, if you all decide not to push this project through, and you decide you do not want to use Mount Rogers Planning District Commission as a sub-grantee, the piece of property, the day that it was dedicated, it will expire after a year to go in for the local match. So if you decide to reapply a year from now, you will not be able to use that piece of property as the match. So just if I could ask a few questions, are you all in favor of this project, and what are your thoughts on this project?
I'd like to ask you some questions about it.
Of course.
I've got involved in it in the last 3 weeks with Mr. Dalton's help and with some people on the Go Virginia, Carroll County people. It seems to me like and reading the document that Mr. Dalton has here, how much money is this going to cost Carroll County?
So with Carroll County, it should only cost you what you're footing for the land. And that's what it looks like. Now, I've just come on board with Go Virginia 3 months ago.
Okay.
So I was not here during the whole application process for this.
Because, and Mr. Dalton, you can help me on this, when you start reading the quarterly milestones, there's a lot of stuff in there that it looks to me like, and I'm not that legal or whatever, that we're funding a lot of money, or we're going to put, Carroll County has to build the building, has to build the classroom, has to have the employees, has to have the interns, and it's going to be a very expensive adventure for Carroll County.
So I looked at the contract, and based on the application, and based on what was on the application, it looks like around roughly $7,600 per year will be the cost of managing this facility, and that's supposed to be split between the Virginia Cooperative Extension and the users of the facility, which would be the school systems, I would assume.
Okay,
And then the rest of the project is supposed to be the construction costs, which I believe, so they'll correct me if I'm wrong, is match, using as leverage.
okay.
The total project requested was $267,200, and $100,000 of that is Go Virginia. The rest is match.
So, or you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, there's 3 subjects that I've met with, I've actually met with Mr. Branston, Mr. Sowers back there the other day at the EDA, Extension, and Griffin and Bowman. The issue, $100,000, of course, from Go Virginia. In over 2 years, there was $35,000 from Don Branston towards the grading of the project. He was going to grade his own property and put it over. Then there was $32,100 from Sowers Construction, which I'm not sure that was there. Bowman Griffin, $32,100, actually indicated to me that they were going to build the thing at cost, which is not giving you anything. And Dixon Construction, who I have not talked to, which came up with a local match of included in this was a local match of $66,000, which was the land value, the way I understand it. And then as part of the contract itself, after I talked to Extension, the local person said that from the beginning, they had indicated they would help with the hands-on education. However, they would not be the facility manager. And they had recommended, even when the application was going in, that a facility manager had to be, a full-time facility manager had to be hired. And the other portion that's not covered, even though it states in this in milestones, is the development and construction of a shell building, classroom, and working, which there is no funding out there for the classroom or the shell building. What Go Virginia has offered to fund, the $100,000, includes all the cattle handling equipment and that type of event, head shoots, etc. And I thought included in that might be the stands.
So
the part that's unfunded currently is the hiring a facility manager and also having enough money to buy a shell building and the footings and interior finishing of that shell building. Those are the unfunded portions of that. And even if I was guessing $50 a square foot, which is probably more like $100 a foot to do a finished metal building of some sort, if it was a 40,000 square foot, you're still talking about a few $100,000 that it's gonna cost to construct that building.
And another idea, you know, Moyer Beamer, he's our vice chair of Go Virginia Region 1, was that you all could go back to the Tobacco Commission for hopefully the infrastructure of this type of facility. Now, that's all pending if that gets approved, of course. But DHCD seems pretty flexible, understanding of what we're dealing with, and they really want to see this up and running. But we understand the situation here, and Salel's correct. That is that we could purchase the equipment, kids could start using the equipment immediately. They seemed okay with if there was a farmer's market type area that would cover the equipment. But ideally, it would be nice to have a full facility for these kids.
Can we do this piecemeal, just do the equipment and the county land without doing anything else and get that grant at this point?
So that is a great question that I can take back to DHCD. I think they will want some type of structure because that's what's in the original application. But what we can do is I can talk to them first thing tomorrow morning, and if you all would like to take a look at the contract, I can email that over. I know Salel has that contract as well, and if you all would like to make any suggested edits before December, and we can try to work those out, if you all are willing to do that. If we get somewhere, we get somewhere, and if we can't reach an agreement, we can't. What are your all's thoughts on that?
Well, I know we have some other people that has some interest in this that wanted to address this. We could conceivably have another date in December to have a board meeting to meet on this, to address that. I'm asking this.
Well, you said it had to be signed by December 1?
December 9th is the next state board meeting, so if we could be
You wanted a yes or no by December 1?
yes, ideally. Now that's coming right up.
Well, we could do it I don't know, of course, I've been on the phone about it most of the day today. And I'm getting mixed discussion about what exactly is supposed to go on with this thing.
I think what we need to determine at this point are who the healthy stakeholders are
Yeah.
and who the facility, the infrastructure is the main concern here. The cost and
Is there
who's going to manage.
possibility of storing that equipment somewhere that's protected until that could be done? I mean, we got a lot of stakeholders have to be involved with this.
Oh, yes. I think that would be a possibility. This is a 2-year project, so if you decide December 1st, it'll be 2 years from the date of the contract. You have to use the money.
We meet on December 1st. About it.
That's a Sunday.
No, it's a Monday.
I think December 2nd's Monday.
Oh, I was looking
If
wrong.
they signed the contract, then you had 2 years from that day to finalize all the details and to
Okay.
purchase the equipment. So you didn't, I heard two things. Rex, Mr. Hill said purchase equipment and store it, but you said that you could just hold that money at the point that you had all those things finished or in place and then purchase the equipment.
Well, ideally, if you purchase the equipment, we'd like it to be used as soon as possible. But the entire project needs to be completed in 2 years.
So what specific pieces of equipment we dealing with? Different scales? What else?
I don't have it listed here, but in total, the equipment that I have is, I have from the Sioux Steel Company totaling $19,945, and it's supposed to be discounted at $17,550. And then WW Manufacturing Incorporated totaling at $21,085.32, and that's discounted to $16,230. So that's the value of the equipment.
So it sounds like it's going to be cattle holding facility,
Yes,
chutes, things like that,
It's-
and scales.
Mhm.
That's essentially what we're talking about there.
that's correct.
Okay.
So part of that money that's left from after purchasing those items could be used for a facility just to cover those items, correct?
Yes, it should be.
And part of it, like.
We can be flexible. DHCD says, and Go Virginia's a new
Right.
project, so we're still learning growing pains. But I'm willing to do what I can to help out the county and be the liaison between DHCD and the county to get this project through. I know we're on a short time frame with this December 1 coming right up. But if you all want to take a look at the contract, if you all could meet about it, provide me your suggested edits, I can get that back to DHCD. I think the main thing, of course, is the infrastructure for the facility, and if there's anything else, we can try to work through that. But I want all parties to be comfortable about where we're headed.
All right, let me go back through this again. All right, so we would have 2 years
2 years.
to put something over the roof, which probably just the scales, from what I'm hearing possibly, because the chutes and things will be outdoors anyway.
They're gonna want, because in the original application, there is some type of infrastructure.
Well, it says first quarter 2020, construction of a shell building with classrooms and a working area.
Right, and that's probably unrealistic at this point.
At county expense.
Well, at someone's expense.
What's the pleasure, gentlemen?
I'm willing to meet anytime up to the first, if that's what it takes. A lot of people have worked on this for several years, and I still think it'd be a good opportunity.
So you got all next week. Well,
Thanksgiving.
we got well, you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if you want to. That gives us a few extra days to get, that's up to y'all.
And I can communicate with DHCD to see if we can even extend it into the first week of December. That puts
Yeah.
us just before the state board meeting.
Okay.
What would be our time limit on having a meeting, Counselor?
I mean, you could have a called meeting upon reasonable notice. Reasonable under the circumstances. But I would point out, though, that this has the EDA as the contracting party, so the Board of Supervisors would be, approving it as far as willingness to support it, but the person who's actually signing this is the EDA, who is the draft.
But is that piece of property that's being transferred to the county?
I think as of now, it's supposed to be from the EDA, correct me if I'm wrong. It is in the EDA name, correct?
That I don't know if it's a.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I think it's a great project, and I think it would be a good project for this county. I think we need to have some more input on the donors, and if we can buy any time on this thing to get it and make sure that the county can afford it before we go and get on into it. And
I just think looking at I agree with Joe 100%. I think it's a great thing for the county, but looking at the timeline in the current contract that's out here, it wants a lot completed by the end of that 2 year. And I think that's why we need to make sure it's something we can obtain.
See, early on, I thought the extension service was going to be operating this, and then we find out that they're just going to be using the facilities and might help out on occasion. So these things that we finding out after the fact, what would be the thoughts on reapplying? How quickly could that happen?
You guys can reapply whenever you feel, if you decide that it's not a right fit right now, but then there's the concern, of course, of the land not being able to be used as the match if you've already purchased it.
Well, that's not the issue. I don't think the land, it's the facility, putting the building up is where we have an issue.
So if the land's coming in at the 66,000 match, you'll lose that.
Lose the land.
You'll lose that as the local match in kind. If it's longer than a year which was dedicated. And the
Okay.
day that was approved by our local council, or our Region 1 council, I'm sorry, was May 2019.
May
I'm not
20
shaking your
No,
head
no,
at
no,
you.
no, you're fine.
Yeah,
It
May
was-
20th of 19.
No, I'm sorry, just May 2019. I don't know the
Oh,
exact
May
date. But that was when the Region 1 council met, and then it was approved at the state board the following month.
Mr. Chairman, I feel like we need to see some contracts and some ends tied together.
And I think if we can identify, have the right players at the table with the extension, I think that's key as well with this facility, seeing who's gonna manage it. And the point of contact from the extension has been Stephen Podoroff. And he's just here with the Carroll County Extension, so.
If we met again on the 2nd of December, which is Monday night, that give you enough time to get your stuff together to have it to the meeting on the 9th or to the deadline on the 9th?
That's all dependent upon DHCD and how much time they need, but I can run that by them tomorrow and have you an answer first thing in the morning.
I think we should set a date next week, maybe Tuesday or Monday. Tuesday, to get back so we can have an opportunity to address these other issues, because that's what we went through tonight. I'm not sure how much finances we want to have.
Just as a follow-up, would you like me to send you the contract and all the information that I have, points of contact,
Yes.
tonight or
Yep.
tomorrow morning?
Yep, that would work.
Okay.
Does that work with you, Mr. Dalton?
We've got a contract.
We've got the
Okay.
But, there may be some other notes or something that we don't have.
I can send you all the notes that I've had with
Okay.
meetings with DHCD.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah,
Meet next week.
The 26th.
The 26th, yep, to discuss this one issue?
just to throw this in, I just got a text message from Bowman Griffith saying the building 50 by 100 is going to be $42K. Because I had talked to Mr. Griffin this morning, and he just has got back to me, he said $42K on it. So
That's just a shell building.
it just says shell building
Home barn.
50 by 100. $42K.
We need to kind of get that up. We might get somebody else, maybe the Farm Bureau might be interested in assisting with that. I don't know. I don't want to speak for them, but do I have a motion on the,
And the date to meet is on the Tuesday.
yes,
What time?
What time works for you?
6 or 7?
six? Or does that work for anybody else that want to speak to this that night? 6 works for everybody?
On the 26th.
Yep.
I make a motion that we have a meeting on November 26th at 6 o'clock to discuss this livestock working facility and educational center.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? Start with you, Joe.
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Little?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes, sir.
I say yes. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Todd Griffin, do you wish to speak?
I didn't even see you here, Todd, sorry.
I seen his ears perked up.
On the actual facility, on the 50 by 100 by 16-foot eave height, we're basically, to get the shell up and get it all the post footings and all that completed, would be about $8.40 a square foot. That's no interior finish, but that would be a building that you could house all the equipment and everything in. And that's basically, that's doing it, I mean, that's cheap.
Like a pole barn structure type deal.
Right. 6x6 laminated post and engineered roof trusses, 40-year ag metal. So, you know, I think that's very affordable, and I think, you know, we should be able to come up with the money to get that done. And then that way it would take care of all the, you know, the complications on dealing with the housing of the equipment and all that stuff. And then the classrooms could be finished up, you know, as to get the money to do it. You know, at least the equipment will be in the dry and it won't be, you know, it won't be going bad sitting out in the weather. So, but I look forward to meeting next week and we'll go over the details.
Thank you, Todd.
Any questions?
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Yes. The 32-1 that's in, is that a donation?
Yeah, basically, that's, if you add that number to the number we're doing, that's what we typically, that's what that building should be costing for that share.
So,
We're basically donating, we don't have any, we're not making anything to do this building, we're basically putting our,
it costs, is
yes,
what Lowell costs.
yes, yeah.
So you would donate to 32-1, which is, then we would buy the building.
I ain't sure exactly as far as that. I know what we need to be to make it happen, we're gonna be at about 42. And that's with a solar guard vapor barrier on the roof, so you don't get any condensation drips or anything like that. But then the classrooms, if we're gonna do like a split system or something on it as far as heating and cooling for the classroom area, all that would have to be a conditioned space separate, you know, inside that shell building.
So you're saying the actual value of the building would be
The actual value of the building,
$74,100?
yes, is what
Okay.
what the value of the building is,
Yeah.
but you're getting it at a reduced cost. So, but as far as the classrooms and stuff like that goes, you know, if we can get the deal done and get the equipment inside where you can have a working facility, then we can always come in, maybe find some more money along the way, we can come in and get the classrooms and all finished up at that point. So. Anything else?
Thank you much.
All right,
Of
thank
course,
you.
dealing with the cattle, it's an outdoor pursuit anyway, isn't it not? Samuel Simmons, is that correct? All right, Richard Sowers, I do know you. You'd want to speak? Okay. All right. Let's move on to payment of invoices. Has everybody had a chance to look at the expenditures?
Make a motion that we approve the payment of invoices as presented.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All right, let's call for questions, start with you, Bob.
Yes.
Dr. Little,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
I say yes. All right, do I have a motion on minutes of previous meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes from previous meeting.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Start with you, Joe.
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Dr. Little,
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I say yes. All right. Under new business, I have a motion on the consent calendar.
I make a motion we accept the consent calendar as presented.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
So moved.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All right, start with you, Bob.
Yes.
Dr. Little,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
I say yes. All right, Doug Spur Rescue Vehicle Sales. we have someone here, they coming to speak on this? Are they gonna speak?
I just invited Sheila tonight, as we were gonna talk about it. If you have any questions, I think she'd be more than happy to answer. Ever since I've been here, I'll address it if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Ever since I've been here, this Dexboro Rescue Squad issue has been out there. In your board package, there's 4 items, I think. There's 2 items that deal with the, maybe more than that deal with the Dexboro Rescue dissolve. Then a letter from Ms. Cannon talking about $16,722.16 for the sale of assets associated with the dissolution of Dexboro Rescue Squad. And 2 items that deal with the sale of the rescue squad units, 1989 Ford Econoline and a 1998 Ford Econoline ambulances. One of those brought $5,873, and the other $12,205. And that comes up with the amount that we were talking about, the $16,722.16. And the letter from Ms. Cannon to Dexboro Rescue Squad, Dexboro Community Center Incorporated in 2016.
Do we have any discussions about how those payments would be made if those were approved?
Do I have any discussion?
I said, yeah, do we, let's see, has there been any discussion about what the payments might be if they were approved by the board? Would it be one lump sum or so much every year, or?
We've had all kinds of discussions, I think, of whether, how to pay it from monthly to lump sum. I think what I've been able to find out about this through the county records is in the 1989, I couldn't find really anything. In the 1998 year, we provided, the Board of Supervisors provided $80,000 to the Dexboro Rescue Squad. But what's got us here is this letter from Ms. Cannon about, with some stipulations which they did meet, being a nonprofit corporation, a letter from the Internal Revenue Service. I'm sure Sheila can answer any questions about that you'd like.
Mr. Chairman. I wasn't on the board at the time that the rescue squad dissolved, but I am on the community board now as the chairman of the board. It's my understanding that at the time that the rescue squad was to be dissolved in 2015, that the sale of the 2 ambulances were to be given back to the community center. But at that time, the community center, they were in the process of dissolving the rescue squad and transferring over into the community center, and the community center was not established as a nonprofit. And we have worked for three or 4 years trying to get that status, which we have, we got that in June of this year, which you have a copy of. It was, my understanding was, Mike Mock was one of the people that was involved with the extensive of making sure that money went back to the community center to be used for the community in Dexboro for those ambulances. And, you know, according to the letter that was received from Nikki Cannon on July 12th of 2016. They were waiting on us to get our nonprofit status enabled for us to get that money back. And we understand that there's no money to give back because this money has been spent, but we are willing to, as long as, we're awarded the money, we're willing to get it by payment, or if you have to wait till the next budget year, the board is willing to do that. So we're hoping that you will stick with what was planned several years ago and give the money back to the community center.
Any questions, anybody? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the county do what they say, which was to, that this money from the sale of these vehicles go to the Duxbury Rescue Squad.
Community center?
Pardon?
Community center?
Community center. And I said rescue squad, okay, but financially, do you have a suggestion, Mr. Dalton, as to how we structure it?
My suggestion would be to provide monthly payments over a period of time to pay that. And I'll give the reasons for that. The staff has been hindered here with no raises for a couple of years, and to just pay out well, it seems a small sum, that large of a sum, with no salary increases and everything else that's been going on, not allowing employees to travel, et cetera. The payment plan of some type would be better suited for our current financial situation. And I heard Ms. Newman say earlier that they'd be acceptable with that, maybe.
Yes.
And,
Did it that way. I would have one other question. I know you've got a motion on it. But I assume that building, if we had meetings throughout the county, would be available at no cost to the county?
It is written that it is available at no cost.
in my motion to finish up with the county administrator, working with the community center folks to set up a payment schedule.
For the free use of the,
Yeah.
well, with coordination with that, would that include voting?
Yes, the voting is already included. There's no charge to the county to use the facility.
All right. Bob's got a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, since it doesn't put it all back on me, can we just say over a 24-month period?
That works for me.
I think that will be reasonable.
I'll
Mr.
withdraw my second so Bob can.
And I will withdraw mine and make the same motion with a 24-month payout.
You second that.
I'll second that.
Now, for discussion. I would like to say a couple things about it. Because the rescue squad went defunct, the county had to pick up, we had to buy a rescue squad vehicle. We had to hire personnel to cover those. You know, Duxbury gets covered by Carroll County.
Yes.
And at one time, we had a contract with Duxbury, and that was, just wanted to mention that. And now, any other discussion? Call for the question. I'll start with you, Joe.
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Bob?
And I vote yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I'll vote yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
And we'd like to invite you this Saturday to our Thanksgiving dinner.
I will be there with.
As long as I don't have to cook, I
No,
can
you
be
don't have to.
there.
Thank you.
All right. Animal-friendly license plate program. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at that? Do you need an explanation? Anyone? Just call for this Anybody have a motion?
Animal-friendly license plates.
If I read that right, we got $375 we gotta do something with. Is that correct?
You currently have money appropriated to do spay and neuter, and periodically you have requests to do that. So I would accept this, and I think we've got more than enough of those already on tap to use all that money.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the funds for the spray and neuter program.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm just wondering about the term animal-friendly and spayed and neutered. You know, I'm just wondering.
Which pronoun should we use?
Unfriendly.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Start with you, Bob.
I vote yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
I say yes. Proclamation for Linda Richardson. Do I have a motion for that? This, Linda works for the Crossroads Institute, and she's, how long has she been working? 30-some years? She's been there a pretty good while. She gets out to everything to everybody that needs to attend those meetings, and very good person. She deserves that.
You're asking for
Yeah.
proclamation. I move that we grant a proclamation, a positive proclamation to Ms. Richardson in her years of service.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Joe, your turn.
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I say yes. That takes us to the non-disclosure agreement. This is agreement that was created to ensure that when we have businesses and things like that, that would cover us and the IDA and any other, I guess, the planning commission as well, that if there was business reference to companies coming in, that we would,
Including staff.
that certain folks that were privy to that information would have to sign the non-disclosure agreement. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at that? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we institute the non-disclosure agreement.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Start with you, Bob.
Yes.
Dr. Little.
Yes.
Robbie.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Phil.
Yes.
I say yes. All right, this brings us down to the local government agreement. And I don't recall what all was in that. From the health department, yeah. Someone here to speak on that, or? I guess it's right here. Essentially, what does this do, Mr. Dalton?
This is your annual agreement with the health department that specifies the services and what they've been doing here, and your annual funding, which is the most important portion of this.
Is this the same as last year?
Well, I can't address last year. It is the same as this year.
Oh, well, sorry. I'm looking at, do I have a motion?
It is the typical agreement I've seen before.
It appears to be the same document.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion so I can ask a question.
I'll second your motion so you can ask the question.
Thank you.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Because I read this, it looks like it doesn't cost the county anything, is that correct?
It's memorializing what you approved in the appropriation of this current fiscal year back.
I mean, there's no additional dollars involved.
No, it's $200 and some thousand.
$244,000.
$252,422 of local funds.
All right, now motion and a second. Any more discussion? I'll start with you, Joe.
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I say yes. All right, now we're up to the opioid lawsuit update. Mr. Durbin, would you just speak to this, just give us just a info on that?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. We've received a recommendation from litigation counsel in the ongoing litigation suit with a recommendation to opt in to the negotiating class. As we discussed last time in closed session, I won't go into too much detail, but the county has an opportunity to either opt in or opt out of the negotiating class. This is a new mechanism under the federal rules. It's not been done before, and it is subject to a challenge I believe in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, but the recommendation from counsel is to opt into that. Basically what that does is give you the opportunity to negotiate what could be a global settlement with the pharmaceutical industry, at least the opioid manufacturers and distributors and marketers in the pharmaceutical industry. And there would be an allocation of any settlement according to a formula that is part of the negotiating class opt-in, essentially. The recommendation you have from counsel is to opt in rather than opt out. Your options would be to be part of the negotiating class and proceed with negotiations. The idea from the industry's perspective is if enough plaintiff localities were before the court and negotiating the settlement, it would make it worthwhile for them to negotiate a global settlement or a near global settlement. If there were not that critical mass, then there's not really much incentive to negotiate, and you continue with your litigation and move forward for trial dates. What counsel has recommended is for Carroll County is to opt in. I certainly can't quarrel with that recommendation, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address it.
Any questions? Looking for a motion.
You just need a motion for Carroll County to opt in.
To opt in to the negotiating class in the ongoing opioid litigation.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that Carroll County opt in this opioid lawsuit.
Negotiating class.
All right,
Negotiate.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, start with you, Bob.
Yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
I say yes. That brings us down to E911.
See you back there. You coming up, Jolene?
I wasn't certain if you wanted me to speak or if you wanted to speak to it, but first off, I would like to thank the board for your continued support of 911. We are getting ready to go through some major changes. Right now, we're in what they refer to as enhanced 911, And much of the technology is the same that was implemented in the 1950s and 60s when 911 was first introduced. And it's very limiting. Our director, their state director, refers to it as having a dial-up modem. So when we get a 911 call, the the name and location information that comes in with that call is limited to 150 characters and is going at a speed of 12K. So it's a very antiquated technology. Additionally, a lot of the routing equipment in the background that's managed by traditional by traditional phone companies is aging out, and they're not investing in new equipment. Verizon has already said they do not want to be in the 911 routing and management company. So it's not a question of if we have to change technology, it's a question of when. So this past year, our state board, the 911 Services Board, passed a motion and got legislation in place that every 911 center has to move to next generation 911 technology by 2023. And the state has started a project. There was 2 localities in the state, and one was Fairfax, one was Virginia Beach, that have a lot of technical resources as well as support resources that underwent extensive requests for proposals, and they received 6 bids, and Virginia Beach may have been 7, but they did receive multiple bids. And they spent quite a bit of time going through those responses. And independently, both of them selected AT&T as the provider. They also included cooperative procurement agreements in those so that other localities could participate. So the state has given us all proposals and has put together a project plan. The good news is the state is going to fund the one-time cost for implementing that next generation network, or ESNet. The bad news is the cost of the telephone cost for 911 is going to increase by 40%. The state is going to fund those costs for 2 years. Our deployment, if we agree to go with the AT&T solution, will be fiscal fourth quarter calendar year 2021. So we would be looking at possible increases in fiscal year 2024. We've also stood up a sustainable funding committee because a lot of jurisdictions have raised concerns about the increasing cost of 911. We don't have recommendations out of that committee yet, but we definitely are giving a lot of feedback that it may be time to look at increasing the funding that we're receiving. And I'll bring more of that information to you as that committee gets further along. So as the commission was reviewing some of the documents that will be required for us to move forward with that next generation 911, Mr. Durbin while he was reviewing, discovered that there were some changes that were needed to our ordinance. The ordinance that was passed in 1989 referenced a local taxation code, and it referenced that the commission would create bylaws and a charter. The taxation code was repealed and replaced with state level code in 2006. There were bylaws, but neither Mr. Durbin nor myself was able to find a charter. So he recommended that we amend the ordinance and put in place a shared services agreement. So the commission would not operate any differently than it has for the past 30 years, 20 of that being a shared communication center. It's just basically to clean up the language of that ordinance. So I'm asking if you all will approve to hold an open meeting. And I think for advertising purposes, we've passed the ability to do it in December unless you had another meeting. So we would target having a public meeting in January.
In Carroll County's December 9th, I think.
The Carroll News only publicizes on Wednesdays, is only published on Wednesdays. And their deadline for the 20th would have been today. So I'm not certain that we have enough time to get it in to meet all of to publicize twice, and then still have 6 days before that December 9th meeting. We could get it in the Gazette, but I think it also needs to be publicized in the Carroll News as well.
What is the 911 charge now? What is the 911 charge now?
For the Citizen or for Carroll County?
Well, for citizens.
Right now, it is 75 cents on if you're on your cellular or on your landline. So monthly, citizens pay 75 cents.
So it would be a 40% increase in the 75 cents, right?
Currently, there is no increase. It's just going to be in our piece, in the 911 center's cost, and that's statewide. It went up about 40% statewide. Ours is maybe even a little bit over that 40%. But one of the things that is being considered, although it would have to go through the legislation process, is a possible increase. But right now, that is not planned. We will have to absorb that as a locality after 2 years if we don't get new legislation in place.
It looks like the January meeting would be on the 13th, is that correct? That'll be the second Monday.
Typically, I think we've been talking about the 6th instead of the 13th as an organizational meeting, but the 13th would be fine with me.
I would just,
That's January.
January, right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have a date to make the motion.
Anybody have any questions?
I guess Tom's question is set the date in January's board meeting.
Yep. That works.
It'll be the 6th or the 13th.
We got the, just looking at the proposed budget calendar, do we have no, we don't have none. On the 13th, just revenue projections, so that's not a meeting.
We decided to move it to the 6th.
So we decided, all right. The 6th of June, 6th of January would work. It works for everybody else.
Well, I'll make a motion that we hold a public hearing on the adoption of the ordinance changes on January the 6th, 2020.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
And you'll take care of doing the advertising?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And I'll work with Mr. Dalton on that. But I'll get him to approve my draft, and then I'll take care of sending it to the paper and paying for the advertisement.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Start with you, Joe.
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I say yes. I do have one question.
Yes.
When it comes to approving your budget, who approves that?
So, the commission, in January, I present a draft budget. The commission approves the appropriation request that we send to the jurisdictions. So as part of the budget submission process, I send an appropriation request and my detailed budget to each jurisdiction.
Is that based on number of citizens we have in Carroll County?
That's correct. At one time, it was based upon landline phones, but that became unreliable as people moved to cell phones. So we felt that population was the most reasonable.
But you also said that the local funds will not increase until 2024, is that right? Roughly.
So far, and I have not run the budget, but for the next generation telephone cost, you are correct, they will not increase. And I work very hard to keep it level from year to year. I can't guarantee that until I run the numbers, but I will try my best to keep it level again.
When was the last time you had an increase?
Just a second. We have held it level since 2016.
Anybody else? Thank you much.
Thank you.
Do we have anything under other? Anybody? Any old business? All right, down to board member comments. Looks like you're on first, Joe.
Thank you. Just want to take some time to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We're getting in the holiday season, and it's run, and do all that good stuff. But I personally want to thank all the staff and all of the Carroll County employees and wish them a happy Thanksgiving. From our previous work session that we had prior to this meeting, we got some big decisions to make very soon. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But just hang on. It's got to happen. And there's going to be some pretty big decisions made here very shortly. I want to thank everybody that works for Carroll County. Keeping it going every day. You're out there in the trenches, in the boots, doing the job. I appreciate the guys on this board. Right now, where everything is really, really clicking right along. This is almost the end of my 2 years, and I thought by now I'd have a whole lot more done than I've gotten done, but I found out that the wheels of government's like the wheels of justice. They turn pretty slow. But we do have a lot of decisions to make coming up very shortly, and with that, I'll close.
All right, Philip.
Just like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, and if I don't see you again before, a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Bob?
When we're struggling to make payments on the Doug Spur Rescue Squad bill, it ought to be a shot fired over the bow of your ship that the county is in a terrible budget situation. We've been working on it for some time, and I, for one, don't look forward to dealing with it either on the Board of Supervisors or in my new capacity on the school board. It's going to affect everybody, and hopefully we can get it worked out and do the most good for the most people and the least amount of harm to the least amount of people. And that's it.
All right, Dr. Rickle?
I was prepared for Bob to.
Oh, my mouth goes too much anyway, so.
I appreciate the board's giving me the opportunity to attend the Virginia Association of Counties last weekend. It was very enlightening. I attended several sessions, a couple of which really kind of flipped my switch a little bit, but one of them, it was talking about how tourism, recreation, and sports can be an economic engine for the county, and I intend to get a little program together for the next meeting or two as soon as I can get my ducks in a row and give everybody some information that I gathered at that particular meeting. Another one that was really very interesting to me and eye-opening is getting ready for the 2020 census. The presenter for this one was actually from Loudoun County, which is light years away from Carroll County. As most of you know, it's around Leesburg and west of Washington. But some of the things that he said really are important to us also. And one thing that he mentioned, they have a committee of 20 that are going to try to count every single person in Loudoun County. Historically, the undercounted populations in the United States include the children under 5, people ages 18 to 24, seniors, non-English speakers, immigrants, persons with disability, and veterans. In Loudoun County, the very hard to count populations include 3 of those, the non-English speakers, immigrants, and children under 5. And this was what really made me open my eyes a little bit, but the question is, how does the census count impact us as Carroll County citizens? For every citizen or every person in the county that is not counted will cost us approximately $20,000 over the next 10 years until the next census in 2030. Some of the federal programs that depend on an accurate census count include special education, school lunch programs, housing choice vouchers, Medicaid, Title I school grants, foster care, Head Start, child care, CHIP, and energy assistance. So if you have an undercount in your county, for every person that's not counted, it will cost us approximately $20,000 over the next 10 years each. And so my challenge is to make sure that we somehow figure out how to particularly count these folks that are typically undercounted or missed. I don't have an answer on how to do it, but Loudoun County's had a committee within the county itself, and they go to libraries and they go to, they have flyers and they have all kinds of things. They go to schools, community centers, faith groups, veteran groups, mental health, hearing and speech. But all these are partners for them to go and try to get everybody counted. And the idea is to get everybody counted on April the 1st, and then follow up anybody you may have missed after that. And with that, I wish everybody a happy holiday Thanksgiving, and that'll do me for tonight. Thank you.
All right, Robbie?
I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's good to see our sheriff-elect here with us tonight. Congratulations, Kevin. I'm glad you're here. Also like to say thanks to the 2 outgoing officers sitting back there. They've been a wealth of service to this county, and they've done a great job while they've been there. Thank y'all very much. And I would like to thank everyone that supported me in the last election. I do get to serve another 4 years with this great group of gentlemen up here. It's been a challenge over the last 4 years. Never thought, kind of like Joe said, you thought you could change a lot in the first 2, and you found out you can't. So we are faced with some struggles coming up over the next few months, and we just are going to work really, really hard to make the best decisions for the entire county, and that's all we can do. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully see you in the next few weeks. It's on you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Also think about veterans. We miss that holiday. I guess you'd call it a holiday in between times from our board meetings. So think about the veterans out there. I want to thank the sheriff and the chief deputy back there. They've been great to work with. Now y'all can go out there and relax. And thanks to all the citizens that voted on Election Day. And I want to thank the county employees. They do a lot of hard work under these trying times. With that said, I'm going to make a motion for the county administrator to work on the budget recommendations that were given to us earlier. So I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll start with you, Bob.
I just was gonna say that very few people in the county will go unscathed in what we're looking at. And I vote yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
And I say yes. All right. Now that puts us down to the county administrator.
Excuse me, will we give the press a list of those items?
I'll leave the county administrator be
To his
discuss
discretion.
that. His discretion.
No discretion, since it's, y'all can hand y'all's copy again, or otherwise I'll print one off when we leave.
All right, that will work. Mine's got
Chairman?
markings all over it.
I got a clean copy.
I'll print them off.
All right.
Thank you for tonight. The couple of, first issue of fire trucks, county attorney's been working on an agreement with, to allow us to order a fire truck from Hillsville Fire Department, which was wrecked. I would ask permission, board approval, by vote, to allow us to go ahead and order the Hillsville Fire Department, work out the final specs of the Cana Fire Department with the Cana gentleman back here. I've already talked to them out in the hallway before they beat me up about these specs. So if y'all would approve that, then since it takes such a long lead time, 12 to 14 months from now to get a fire truck delivered, if we can go ahead and get authorization to enter contracts and move forward with the purchase of these two trucks, I would appreciate it. Has no effect on this year's budget. A year and 2 months, maybe a year from now, if the big boys back there wrestle it up.
I can get you a big bat if you need that. And, would that help?
They're just teddy bears.
Okay.
A point of order, Mr. Counselor, like, I know if we have a committee and they work together on something and then they come with a recommendation, it really has the effect of a motion, doesn't it? I mean, if the county administrator recommends something, does it carry this?
I would want a motion.
The county administrator's recommendation, if a board committee recommended this, I would say the committee is the motion.
Motion. Yeah.
It's in the past, but tonight, since this is just coming, oral county administrator needs a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we do what the county administrator has recommended, and it involves the Hillsville Fire Department and Cana Fire Department. Right? Correct.
Ordering two rescue pumpers or whatever those things are.
All right. Well, we got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, when I was under that tractor and it dripping diesel fuel on me, I I didn't care what size pumper it was, I just wanted one there, you know.
Well, I do know that the fire departments have worked together quite a bit over the last year, I think. Ain't that right, Everett? We've all sit down, discussed these things, and we're trying to get fire trucks that are almost, not necessarily identical, but pretty close to identical, so we can, you go from one fire department to the other. If you got several departments that show up at the same time, they would know how to operate the equipment that's on there. So that, you know, sooner or later, you know, that's the way with everything. Sooner or later, we've got to buy new equipment. Same way with cars, and, you know, same way with fire trucks. They sit indoors and this stuff, but they get old, and you just have to fix them. All right. Any other discussion? All right, start with the vote. Start with you, Joe.
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I say yes. All right, poll project.
Whole project, we were supposed to have a meeting last week. The contractor called at the last minute and said he would not be here, so the whole project report will be next month. The Woodlawn School project, turned Woodlawn School into apartments. The plans have been turned into the building inspection department to get that started. They're ongoing, I guess, a negotiating phase to finalize the contracts. So sometime next year, that project will move forward. VDOT, we had a public hearing, talked about a lot of road projects. Board of Supervisors needs to align themselves with three recommendations so we can start making applications with VDOT. Some of those road projects were down at Double Shoals, down at, on 52, climbing lanes on 52, a crossing down here at the high school, and sidewalks out to the high school from town so the kids can get back and forth between the schools on the Safe Routes to School project. And some safety projects, turning lanes, etc., on Route 58 and the high accident areas identified for VDOT. So we're at your beck and call, whichever one of those projects that y'all would like to proceed with us making the applications. As slow as the process has been so far, if we make a decision pretty quickly, we'll have the applications by V-Trans March of 2020.
So we really need to turn the things in at the December meeting.
Yes. If not, I'm gonna have a list at the December meeting and y'all can vote them up or down.
Well, I guess
Do we necessarily have to narrow it down from 3, or don't they go through those projects and assign point value for certain things, and they really narrow it down?
You have to make an application through the process, so they can help you narrow it down, but you're limited to the number that you put together. It's either 3 or 4.
Do you have a recommendation we should do all of them, or specific ones?
I do not have a recommendation. I would let y'all wrestle for that right up there to which one you apply for. The first one I heard about was Bob Martin's Double Shoals curves, which just last week there was a wreck there as I came through.
There's a reason the guardrail stays torn out all the time down there. It's because 2 trucks can't pass in that curve, and
Then I like the truck climbing lanes on 52 in a couple of different locations because of the rerouting of interstate traffic by GPS, not so much by the police, but by GPS, everybody jumps off, and it just helps if there's a passing area or two on it. I really like the school project down here, how to get across 52 and back to town. And 58, we've heard from the citizens on that there needs to be some improvement.
But they've been working on that. Correct?
They did do the bumper, or whatever they call it, on the shoulder.
Yep.
So we'll have it back on the agenda for the 9th.
All right.
I've thought about that and thought about it. And you realize if they redid a bridge and widened Virginia Street, you could turn all that traffic up Virginia Street. And there's enough room to widen all the way through and then come into 52. And you basically could close down that section of old 58 by the high school there. That might not be such a bad way of doing it.
Upgrade project on the Brushy Fork Road to get the truckers through there safer, that wasn't in consideration?
Under the V-Trans, where it has to be identified as one of the major routes in the state, that,
Well, it's got to be a kind of a major route since they,
yeah, I understand, it just doesn't fit the funding criteria according to Ms. Hughes. Maybe that is one of those safety projects or something that we can apply for under other funding. I guess exit 1, if we had an application for somebody to, for commercial down there, it would be a good project, but until that happens. But yes, Bill, we could do that, add that to the list and send it in, see what VDOT says about it.
Richard back there will vouch for me. There's curves through there, you cannot take a tractor and trailer through and stay on your side. And Lisa saw it for herself down there. We standing in one of the curves, there come a truck through, took about half the other lane. They did a traffic count the other week, well, a few weeks ago. Asked her if she could do one on truck that would count the tractor and trailers. So they come and did one on that. I hadn't heard from it what it was, but we get quite a few through there that's not really dodging scales, it's just their way of getting back to 52. And, yeah.
Yeah, they think it's a shortcut, it's really not a shortcut.
But we can do applications each and every year.
Yeah.
Okay. So we might get some guidance on how to deal with that one. All right. Any more discussion on VDOT? Carroll County Genealogy Club.
I have a request, I got back in September to work on their lease agreement, which you have. I would ask you to push that off onto the county attorney and let him draft a new one for us to move forward.
I think we could go ahead and advertise for a public hearing while we're at it, because it is an interest in real property, so we can go ahead and set that date. I did a draft, forms to the genealogy club and others, and emailed it to you, Mr. Dalton, back in August, because I think it was a recurring request. So, I have to resend that, but I think we're good to go to have a public hearing on it, because the document is ready.
December 9th, just advertise.
One time for the public hearing.
I do have a question. It's set up right now for 10 years, correct? Or is it, can we reduce that to a yearly or after very least 5 years? Like 10 years to me is, you know.
You can name the term. The public hearing would be to
Listen.
disposition of real property for a lease of really any term, depending on the advertisement. And you can always shorten the lease term
Okay.
from what you advertise.
Do I have a motion on the, to have a public hearing on the lease agreement?
I make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Start with you, Bob.
Yes.
Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
I say yes. Resolution of support.
We have a resolution about a facility over in Smith County. They sent and asked that we pass a resolution to support that facility to house anyone in Southwest Virginia, just not Smith County.
All right.
Was that for battered ladies there, I mean, in the area?
Says mental health institute.
I think it's a clean and sober facility, alcoholic rehab.
Oh, okay.
Do I have a motion to support the resolution?
I make a motion, we support the resolution for the Southwest Virginia Mental Health Institute.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
So move.
All right, motion and a second. Start with you, Bob. Well,
Yes.
any discussion? Any
No
discussion?
discussion, yes.
All right, Dr. Littrell?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Yes. Philip?
Yes.
I say yes. And Go Virginia Project?
Since we already
Dis-
rescheduled that,
Yep.
Excuse me.
All right,
forego that.
and we need to go into closed session. Reference consultation with legal counsel for specific legal matters? Or not?
I'd be asking for a closed session under 2.23711A8, or A7, consultation with legal counsel regarding pending or threatened litigation, and generally discussing delinquent tax litigation.
All right, do I have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion that we convene closed session upon, for discussion as authorized by the Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, A7.
Yes.
All right, have a motion.
listening.
I don't know how that happened. That never happened before. Sorry about that. Have a motion. Did I get the second?
Second it.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other, I'll start with you,
Yes.
Bob, Dr.
Yes.
Littrell,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Philip.
Yes.
I say yes. Thank everyone for coming. Have all that talking there.